Hi, everybody. How are you doing today? It's another Wednesday and it's 12 noon. So, you know what that means? Time for another edition of The Oldish Live. My name is Karen. I'm the publisher and editor of The Oldish. And if you have been with us before, welcome back. If you have not been with us before, welcome. Now, today I want to address a question that I get asked a lot, a lot. I talk a great deal about independence and remaining independent, making purposeful choices to stay independent. And so, one of the questions that I get asked in a lot of the private messages that I get is how do I figure out whether where I'm living and how I'm living right now is the best place for me to be? Because that's something I talk about a lot, but people don't seem to know where to start. So, this is the question I'm going to answer for you today. I'm going to have you make 4 lists. And this is going to take some time. You're not going to do this over the course of an hour. This is going to take you a period of time, and there are no right or wrong answers. There's no right or wrong amount of time you should spend on this. This is all about you. It's all about your lists. So for those of you who have just joined us, I see a few more dropping in here. The question I've been asked is how to assess whether or not the place where you're now living is the place where you should stay as you get older. Okay, so 4 lists you're going to make. And I want you to take a really good objective look at it. Like, don't say, oh, well, I really like that, so I'm not going to put it on the bad side of the list. You have to be very objective. So wait until you're in a mood. I don't know about you, but I have to be in the mood to clean out closets and throw things out. So this is probably something you need to be in the right frame of mind to do. Okay? So on your first list, I've got lots of pages here. I've really mapped this out for you. So on your first list, I want you to do positives and negatives about the house where you're now living. Take a look around and just imagine what it would be like. So, what I want you to do is imagine yourself being 10 or 15 years older than whatever age you are now. And you're going to be thinking in that time frame about whether something you're looking at benefits you or doesn't benefit you as you grow older. Okay? So, for instance, a single story home would be a positive. That goes on the positive side of the list. No stairs, right? A 2-story home would be a negative. Sorry, but it just is. In 10 or 15 years' time, a 2-story home may not be the thing that benefits you the most, particularly if you've got bad knees, a bad back, mobility issues, range of motion issues. That is potentially a negative. So it goes on the negative side. A home that is on a transit line of any kind would be a positive. A rural property where a car is absolutely required, that'd be a negative, quite clearly. A laundry room that's on the main floor would be a positive. A laundry room in your basement would be a negative. Of course, you've got to go downstairs to get it, right? To do your laundry, if you've got to go downstairs, that's a bad thing. A pantry, a lazy Susan cupboard, deep baker's drawers where you pull out a drawer and it's very deep going down. It's called a baker's drawer where I live. It may be called something else where you live. Those are all positive things. But cupboards where you have to reach in and they're very deep, you've got to reach way to the back, that's a negative. You don't want to have to do that when you're older. A 2,000 square foot house that was once suited to a family life would be a negative now for one person or 2 people who are living alone. You don't need 2,000 square feet. You don't need to pay the bill to heat 2,000 square feet. You don't need to pay the tax bill for 2,000 square feet. So understand this, we're looking at the financial aspects as well as the physical aspects of your home. Okay? You need to look at the maintenance for the whole space as well, including the cleaning. When you are 10 or 15 years older than you are now, how easy is it going to be for you to maintain that property. Okay? That's your first list. I can go down everything. I've only given you an idea of what to write on the list, but look at your own home from your perspective for what that home does for you. Okay? Positive side, negative side. You're going to do a second list about the maintenance that needs to be done on your home. So make sure you include things like snow removal, grass cutting, garden maintenance, cleaning the gutters or eaves troughs. In Canada, they're eaves troughs. In the States, they're gutters. Call it whatever you want. They still have to be cleaned. Painting, changing the batteries in the smoke alarms, window cleaning. If you don't have windows that tip in and you've got to go outside and get up on a ladder to clean your windows, that's not a good thing. Vacuuming, because vacuuming is a task, that is maintenance. Furnace and air conditioning maintenance, the list goes on and on. So your house is going to have specific things that are maintenance for it. Make sure you make a list of all of those things. It's not a right or wrong. It's just a list of stuff that has to be done so that your house doesn't deteriorate, okay? The third list is going to be the places you need to go on a regular basis. Groceries, the pharmacy, your bank, the farmer's market, the hardware store, the doctor's office, your children's homes, the gym, the place where you go to work, church, someplace where you may volunteer. Make a list of all of those places. The fourth list concerns your adult children, your grandchildren, your close friends, or anybody that you may ask for help now or in the future. The list is going to get more detailed for sure. These are people who are invested in your well-being, and you're invested in their well-being as well. So make a list. What I want you to do is this: sketch out a list of what their day looks like. So pick one of your adult children who may live nearby. What does their day look like? An adult child may spend 8 hours a day working. The time to commute to and from work matters. So it may take them an hour, half an hour each way, whatever it is, write that down. So you're sketching out how many hours a day they spend doing this stuff. Maybe they take a child to hockey or to dance each week. Maybe that takes 3 hours. Figure out, randomly assign a time to that. Don't forget how many hours a day they sleep. People should be sleeping 8 hours a day. Make sure you include that. Don't forget the time it takes to make meals and do the shopping. Don't forget household chores. Each week has 168 hours in it. Okay? You can probably see where I'm going to go with this. With all the stuff I've just mentioned, that's 130 hours, and I haven't included time spent on laundry, home maintenance, going to get your hair done, time spent with your partner, social obligations. When you add that all up, you can see that time is really a very precious commodity. So what you're trying to do at the end of it is say, okay, there are 168 hours in a week. This is how many hours my adult child or my friend, whoever's time you're adding up, this is how many hours they have committed to their own life, to the things that they need to do. At the end of that, you're going to come to a place where you subtract one from the other, and you're going to see how many free hours they actually have. Okay, got your lists all done? 4 lists. Don't worry, you can go back and see this tape on archive. You don't need to write all this stuff down. You can go back and you can decide what lists you're going to make. So, as I said, you're going to imagine yourself 10 or 15 years older than you are now. There's no right or wrong because there's no standard about what an 80-year-old looks like, or an 85-year-old, or a 60-year-old for that matter. It's different for everybody. So don't beat yourself up about this, but I do want you to be realistic. You can imagine yourself relatively healthy, just slower with more limited range of motion. But maybe your doctor has also warned you about diabetes, maybe you've got bad knees, or maybe you've got a family history of something, and you're fairly certain that 10 years or 15 years or 20 years down the road, this is going to be something that impacts your life. So you want to plan for it. Whatever it is, be realistic. Okay, so if you've got bad knees and you've got to do stairs, you don't want stairs in your future. So I want you to be very tough with this. That's why I said you've got to be in the right frame of mind to do it. Because if you're in the wrong frame of mind, you're going to start making excuses, or you're going to say, yeah, I can cope with it. You can't cope with it. We're looking at an ideal world where you are going to be living in a place that's safe for you and also appropriate. So too many of us are living in houses that we have adapted to. We've adapted to the quirks or the failings of that house. So the house is no longer working for us. We're essentially trying to work around and make the house work for us. And I don't know why. Because it's become habit, perhaps, because this stuff has happened over time. Go back to your first list. And with each item that's on the negative side of things, not the positive, but the negative side of things, try to figure out a solution. How are you going to mitigate that negative? So you want a long-term solution that ends up with a house that works for you. And maybe in the end, the house doesn't work for you, and that's okay. You're not going to find solutions for absolutely everything. There may be space limitations for some, like for instance, the laundry room being in the basement. Maybe there is just no space on the main floor for that laundry room to be. Maybe there are budget limitations. Maybe you cannot afford to do the renovations you need to do to make that house work for you. It's all fair and it's all very individual and personal. The second list. So that was the list of maintenance that has to be done on the house. Again, imagine yourself 10 or 15 years older, not next year. Really take a good hard look down the road. Who's going to do this stuff? Who is going to do each of those items on that maintenance list that you've laid out? If some of it's not going to be done, that house is going to start to deteriorate, which directly affects the value of your home. So you need to really think about that. You need to understand what chores can be done by you and what chores simply can't. What do you think you're going to be asking adult children and friends to help with? Make a plan. Make a plan for how this stuff is all going to play out. The third list, which was the places you typically go. Again, thinking of yourself 10, 15, 20 years down the road. Now think of yourself without your driver's license. Okay, so you don't have a car. You're living in that house. You don't have a car. How are you going to do life? Okay, I want you to think about this. Research has demonstrated that people will walk about 1,500 steps before they think, I got to get in a car. I got to go in a car to get to this place, whatever it is. How are you going to do it? Is there transit? Are there cabs? Were you going to depend on family and friends to help you? Right? Figure out the mitigation for that third list. The fourth list, and this is the list that outlines the responsibilities that your adult children or the friends that you were thinking you might rely on uses their time right now. They may still be raising children. They may be involved in very full lives that have a lot of moving parts. Realistically, how much time do they have for you to do the things that you can no longer do for yourself? Independence is always my focus. You've really got to wrap your head around the independence piece. How much independence are you willing to sacrifice? Me, I'm willing to sacrifice zero independence. That's just me. But you give up independence every single time you ask somebody else to do for you. At the same time, understand that children do want to be involved in their parents' lives. They do want to contribute, but helping out for an hour or so every now and then has a way of turning into something very much more. For instance, an adult child may say, well, I'll take mom to the grocery store this week, and we'll do it every week. Pretty soon, that can turn into a dependence that sees the adult child being asked or feeling that they need to offer to take mom to the doctor's appointments, to the pharmacy. It turns into something that can be very onerous. You need to understand how much you're asking other people to cut into their lives to help you. Again, independence is the focus. Some of you might be insulted by the fact that I say that. Well, of course they want to help me, or of course they should help me. No, my focus is independence. You need to be independent and do for yourself as much as possible. Not only because you're impacting someone else's life with your requests, but because the more you can do for yourself, the healthier you're going to be. That's just the reality of it. Think of it. When you're out and about, you're going to a grocery store, not now so much because of COVID, but when you go to a grocery store or you go to the post office or you go to the pharmacy, you're meeting other people and you're being social along the way. That sparks your endorphins, those happy hormones. That is so good for you. What you don't want to do is be socially isolated. And if you become dependent on other people to get you out of your social isolation, that's not a good thing. Understand also that there's been a lot of research into the impact that caregiving has on caregivers. People very often have to give up jobs to care for a family member. That takes them out of the work stream. It impacts their career. It impacts how much money they're making. It impacts their own health. It is not uncommon for caregivers to pass away before the person to whom they are providing care. I did not make this up. There is actual research about that. Understanding that caregivers have to lift older people, and they may not have the stamina or the wherewithal to do that. Understand that caregivers can themselves become socially isolated. That's not good for them. It leads to depression. It leads to a host of things. So we need to understand what we're asking of other people when we ask them to do for us. Are we asking them to do more than they can comfortably give? Remembering that an adult child may have an adult of 80 years of age may have an adult child who's 60. They are somebody who should be going through this whole list making process themselves that I've just described. No matter how healthy they are, they may themselves have limitations that you may be asking them to set aside to do for you. But if you take the time to put yourself into an environment that is working for you instead of against you, that is healthier for you, you can prolong those active years, those years when you can be independent and do for yourself. It's very important. So you've made the lists and taken an objective and hopefully thoughtful look at where you are. Is where you are now where you should be going forward? If you've been truly objective, you will get a truly objective answer. Is hanging on to that house where you raised your family the best move to allow you to retain your independence? And, I want to be clear, I went through this process myself last fall. I live in a small rural town, population about 5,000. There's no public transit. 1,500 steps would not take me to a grocery store or to my bank or to a pharmacy. So if I was without my car, it would be very challenging for me. Very challenging. It took me months to do this assessment, by the way, and that's why at the top of the show I told you, take your time. Take your time doing this. It took me a couple of months, really, to go through the process. Really, it did. It was something I truly had to think about. So, in terms of my adult children, I have two of them. One of them is 3 hours away, one of them is 20 minutes away. The child who is 20 minutes away is married, has a full-time job that's very demanding. She owns a home that needs care. She has animals that need her attention. So the idea of asking me, with my independent streak, to do for me was distasteful to me, just not my thing. Now, I don't mean, hey, would you pick up something at the grocery store for me? We do that for each other. We've always done that for each other. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about I cannot physically go to the grocery store because I don't have a car anymore and I need someone to take me to the grocery store. Now, yes, I can order online. I still have to get the groceries. I still have to get them there. I mean, there's still something. So the fact that I fiercely value my independence was really the the kicker to me deciding to sell my house, and I bought a condo. That's what I did. That was my ultimate decision. The place where I bought my condo, by the way, my house was about 2,000 square feet. My condo is just over 800 square feet. There was a big curve to downsizing, very large, but I did it. With the help of my children, I did ask them to help me do that. So the complex where my condo is has a grocery store. It has a Starbucks, an LCBO, 3 restaurants, a fitness center, walking trails, lots of planned activities. And no, it's not a senior retirement place. This is a property that I found in an environment that suited the lifestyle that I needed and that I wanted for myself for the next 10, 15, 20 years. And I really think I found it. A walk-in clinic is on the way. They're talking about a pub being put in. This is a growing development. There's a shuttle that can take me to a GO station that's not too far away. There's also a golf course. I don't golf. I might take it up. I don't know, but if I did golf, it would take me there. I can get to all of this without doing one single stair, not even a flight of stairs. Not one single stair step do I need to do to get to any of this. I can do stairs. There is that option. I don't have to. Taxis are available if I want to go someplace else. So, it was a very thoughtful process that took a few months to imagine. It took some time to make it happen because a lot of pieces had to fall into place, but I did it. That's a process I would like to see everybody go through in your own time. Like I said, there is no right or wrong way to do any of this. This is all about you and what works for you. I value my independence, as I said, absolutely fiercely. And under no circumstances was I going to be giving up any of it willingly. That is the basis on which I went forward. You may be a little different in your thinking about what you're willing to give up, the compromises you're allowed to make. So, did I make a compromise? Heck yes, I made a lot of compromises. I gave up a home that I had renovated exactly to my taste, that I loved, that I had lived in for 25 years, had a beautiful landscaped backyard. I could sit outside. If I were there now in the midst of this COVID epidemic, I would have all kinds of room to move around in. That's not what I have now. But, it becomes a case of better best. The better alternative might be this, but the best alternative that would give me more of what I not only want, but actually need going forward was to sell that house. It was to sell it. It was to buy that condo that I bought. And it was to be able to continue being a mother to my children, even though they don't need a lot of mothering, really, they don't. But I wanted to be their mother, not the person to whom they are required to give care. That was another big kicker for me. I don't want my children to be my caregiver. Okay? That is what I will leave you with. That is the question that so many people ask me, and it's not it's not a small little question to answer. It's not something I could just write out and say, here, do this. As you can see, we've been on for nearly half an hour now, and there are a lot of steps. You really have to want to do it. You really have to undertake it very objectively. So there you go. If anybody has any questions or comments, leave them below. Thank you for the likes that we're getting on this. I do appreciate it. Thank you to all of our viewers. And I will see you again next Wednesday at 12 noon. Until then, please do remember that it takes a village to age a senior. Bye, everybody.